and you try to do as much as possible, and that's good.
Lay practitioner, should we do it every day if possible?
If you can, certainly it would be beneficial. But again, I don't want to make any absolute prescriptions, because each and every one of you have to make a judgment depending on your commitments and depending on what you're able, to take on board. There isn't any point in. Let me put it this way: the main thing is that you should stay happy with the practice. If you try to do more practice, and what happens is that your mind becomes sort of tired and frustrated and fed up with the practice, and the practice becomes a kind of burden and something that you do it, you force yourself to do it, and so forth, then I don't think it's beneficial. I think you need to stay happy with the practice. You need to be, you need to be comfortable and to feel at ease with the practice. I mean, I heard someone the other day say that they although they're very tired, they force themselves to chant, and then they chant, and they're all, despite the fact that they're very tired, then they get a headache, so they have a terrible headache from chanting. Well, obviously this isn't very useful. I mean, you don't chant or do a meditation or do a ritual to get a terrible headache, So you need to make your own judgment, and this is why the Buddha always said, not too tight and not too loose. I mean, the strings of the lute, the strings of the instrument shouldn't be too tight, and they shouldn't be too loose. It should be just nice, just right, just don't overdo it, and on the other hand, don't allow yourself to be lazy also. Just enough, not so much that you begin to be tense and tired and it becomes difficult for you, and don't take it so easy that you just, you're just sleeping all the time. And that everybody's got to make their own, judgment, because everybody's different, everyone's circumstances are different. I really can't make a general prescription of how much you should be doing.
Peter, I got another question. Quite often we practice Buddhism, and even for many years, but because of situation, we may flare up and get angry or shout at our Dharma brothers, sisters, etc. Is it, we don't have a compassion. People always challenge us. You got no compassion. You are very wrathful, or you are very rude. You are not taking into consideration their feeling. But my question here is that I don't know whether knowingly or not knowingly, we may be practicing certain form of middle path. If need to, maybe have to. But in this respect, can you give some guidance?
Well, let me put it this way. These are very deep-seated afflictions, defilements, if you like, anger and desire and so forth, and it isn't easy to eradicate them even after many years of practice. I think that in this case, the best way to eradicate these actually is through the developing of wisdom. I think if you begin to undermine, you begin to cut away at the ego, I think this sort of reaction will happen less often. I'm not so sure that it's compassion that is the key element here, although of course what you say is true, that it is a lack of regard for other people. We don't think that we might be hurting other people and so forth. But more often than not, when we get angry, it's because we're defending our own space, or we're defending. It can be our own opinions. It can be our own point of view. I mean, we can get angry with someone because they disagree with us about how to help people, right? And I think it's a question of developing and developing an idea, a sense of egolessness. Now, I'm not quite sure what you were getting at when you mentioned the middle way. Of course, we need to express ourselves honestly, but we need to express ourselves effectively also. Now, there might be some instances, some occasions where to speak strongly will be beneficial, but I think that we need to judge those cases quite carefully, and we need to try to assess. We need to try to determine what is the best way to get our message across. And in most cases, it won't be to be abusive and to be harsh. In most cases, it will be to be reasonable and to be sympathetic. The key to all these things is that we aren't mindful, really. That is the sort of problem. I mean, mindfulness is supposed to be kind of like a watchman. Like if you were working as a watchman, at a building, so to speak, and your job was not to let anybody in who wasn't authorized, and not to let anybody out who wasn't authorized. Then if you saw anger coming along from inside toward the door, trying to get out, you would say, stop, you're not allowed to go out. Otherwise you wouldn't be doing your job, I mean, supposing you were let us make it a little bit clearer. Let's make the example a little clearer by let's say you were a warden at a prison, and you saw prisoner 75 heading for the door, you would say, stop, you're not allowed to go out, So if you have mindfulness in place, you will see this anger coming and wanting to get out in the form of words, and you can stop it. You can say, no, you don't get out, So it's a question of mindfulness, to be aware, to think before we speak, to think before we act, not just to say and do things, before we know it, we've shouted at this person, and then we think, oh, why did we do that? You have to keep a watch on what you think, what you say, what you do, and mindfulness is the best way to do that. Just to be aware and not be careless with regard to what you say and do.
Okay, tonight the talks ends here. Thank you so much to Dr. Peter Satina, and we'd like to make an announcement that whatever token that have been offered to our Venerable Sir here, is contributing back to our centers as donations for maintenance of centers. And thank you so much for your coming and your sharing of Dharma with us. And see you again next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you all for coming.